his life.
I think it's in my blood. I enjoy it. I don't.
With that, in your last minutes or your last meeting, you had helped us declare October, Artober, the month, the Arts and Culture Month. Is to turn the spotlight on the vital contributions that arts and culture makes in learning and in life. So the Arts and Culture Committee would like to challenge those out there in the city, schools, businesses, and community arts organizations to work together to help bring the arts to the forefront for the month of October. And to finish off the month of October, we will be having our annual event, Art Fest. Once again, the City of Niagara Falls Arts and Culture Committee is hosting Art Fest, a festival in celebration of local arts and culture in conjunction with the Community Arts Challenge. The event takes place Saturday, November 1st, 2008 at Niagara Square from 10 till 5. And we have 3 main goals for this event. Number 1, for local art and culture groups to provide them with an opportunity to promote themselves. Number 2, for the residents to introduce them to a range of available resources. And most importantly, for the children to go there and to have them participating in a skill and taking that enthusiasm home so that they can learn more of the skill on their own. And then thirdly, for the city to promote the Arts and Culture Committee as a resource. So I'm just here tonight. I'm hoping there's some literature in your packets for this event, and hoping to see you all there on November 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karen. There may be members of council who maybe have a question. Are there any members of council wishing to ask a question of Karen? Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your efforts again, and we look forward to seeing you at some of those events.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again. Move on to the next matter. It's a public meeting, and I'm going to ask the clerk to introduce the next item on the agenda, please.
A public meeting is now being convened to consider a proposed amendment to the city zoning bylaw to permit the subdivision known as Deerfield Estates phase. This was given by first-class mail in accordance with the Planning Act on Friday, August 29th, and by posting a sign on the property in question. Anyone who wants notice of the passage of the zoning bylaw amendment or preserve their opportunity to appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board shall leave their name on the sign-in sheets outside the council chamber.
At this time, I'm going to ask the Director of Planning to explain the purpose and the reason for the proposed bylaw amendment. Mr. Hurlovich.
Thank you, Worship. This property involves 5.1 hectares or 12.75 acres of land on the west side of Taylor Road, immediately north of Forest View School and Forest View. The land in question are to be developed with a plan of subdivision. The application before council tonight is for consideration of the subdivision plan as well as the rezoning for those lands to accommodate the development. In the surrounding area, the lands to the north are vacant. Lands to the east are developed with single detached dwelling for a new 40 apartment building immediately abutting the property on the west side of Kaler Road. I mentioned the school to the south of the site, as well as single-family dwellings to the south of the property. The proposal is to develop the property with 63 single-family lots, a variety of lot sizes that are proposed in terms of the lot frontage. One block of land is located on the west side of Kaler Road, and this would be used to accommodate other 17 townhouse units, or the applicant has requested 44 apartment units on that block. Previously, there was a meeting before City Council on May the 26th, which the subdivision design was presented. At that time, the developer had 13 lots for semi-detached dwelling that would result in 26 units. Those lots have been redeveloped for 28 narrow frontages for single-family lots. The developer believes there is a market for this type of unit, whereas semi-detached units at this point in time are not popular. In total, there would be 63 units. Our department looked at the application with regard to the provincial policy statement and found that it is that document. The provincial plan provides for the land designated residential and provides for a variety of housing forms to meet all the needs of the resident. The multiple residential block on Kayla Road satisfies the criteria with respect to being located on an arterial road, close to transit, schools, parks, and commercial areas. Our neighborhood plan recommends a mix of housing, 70% single and semi-detached housing, and 30% multiple family. The proposal has a 70% single and semi-detached, and 21% if it's townhouses. The distribution of that is if they develop for with the apartment building, they actually achieve a 59%. I don't know where those figures are coming from, but anyway, 59% semi and singles and 41% multiple family development. Due to the small size of the property, this mix has been acceptable to our office. The subdivision design, as I mentioned, it's already an extension of Parkside Road, and a new street that was developed in the subdivision is South Kelsey Crescent. The street system also provides for connections to the vacant lands to the north, which is appropriate. There's a widening provided along Taylor Road on the west side to accommodate improvement there. A temporary turnaround will be required on the extreme easterly end of Kelsey Crescent in order to accommodate turnaround for emergency vehicles. Parkland was dedicated to earlier phases of the Deerfield subdivision. The zoning of the property is currently development holding. It's had that category for approximately 30 years. The application is for an R1E zone for 35 of the lots, which provide a 12-meter, 40-foot frontage and 370 square meters of lot area. The narrow front single family, there are 28 of those units, and there would be a frontage of 9 meters or 30 feet and 300 square meters of lot area. Quite similar to what we would have for semi-detached homes that we develop. The developer is seeking a site-specific R5B zone that would provide for either the townhouses or apartments. There are certain provisions that they're looking for with respect to the height of the apartment building, the lot coverage for the townhouses, and they're also asking for a reduced setback along Taylor Road of 4.5 meters. Staff are recommending a standard 6 meter setback. We believe that's more consistent with the street standards. In conclusion, we're supporting the Deerfield application. We find that it's an appropriate development for the site. It's consistent with the provincial policy statement, the official plan, Garner's secondary plan. The recommended zoning will provide suitable regulations. Therefore, the recommendation is for council to approve the draft plan of subdivision, support the zoning amendment, and to authorize the mayor to sign the document within a specified period of time. This approval will lapse after 3 years if it has not been finalized. Those are the highlights.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hurlovich. And once again, members of the public are advised that failure to make an oral or written submission at this public meeting will result in the Ontario Municipal Board dismissing any referral that it receives. Failure to sign the sign-in sheets will result in staff rejecting an appeal as per Section 34, subsection 19 of the Planning Act. At this time, Council will hear from anyone other than the applicant who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaw amendment. Is there anyone here other than the applicant who wishes to speak to this application? Is there anyone other than the applicant again who wishes to speak to this application?
I got a question.
Please come forward, sir. Come to the podium if you would.
Anyway.
And just for the benefit, would you identify yourself, Mr. Johnson, and your address?
Okay, Don Johnson, 5720 Temperance. And I noticed in all your elongation of explanation of this building, you never mentioned parking. And in a lot of other things, you don't mention parking. Why is not parking included and allowed in a lot of all these other deputations or whatever you call them? Parking is a very essential thing, and it's never mentioned, and it's just overlooked, and it's a disaster in all the buildings that I've heard about. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hurlovich, do you want to address the issue of parking? We have single family and some...
Yeah, the majority of the properties will develop for as single-family detached dwellings, so they will have a driveway to park their car. There will be, move to the next slide, there will be parking restrictions along Kelsey Crescent because of the narrow frontages. The on-street parking will actually block the driveways for those single-family units. The brown block fronting onto Taylor Road will be developed at the standard requirement of the city zoning bylaw, which is 1.4 parking spaces per unit. That's sufficient to accommodate one car per unit plus visitors or a second car per unit. So we're satisfied that they will meet those requirements.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else present who would wish to speak to this proposed bylaw amendment? All right, at this time then I'm going to ask the council will hear from the applicant or his representative.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Good evening.
My name is John Mestick. I'm from Realty. Good evening, members of council, city staff. I don't think there's anything to add to Mr. Hurlovich's report. We agree with the Planning Department's recommendation for approval. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to attempt to answer them. If not, we ask for your support of staff.
Thank you. Members of council, are there any questions of Mr. Mestick? Councillor Iononi? Okay, well, we'll close the meeting first. Any questions from Mr. Mestick? Yes, Councillor Thompson.
You don't have any problem with a 6-month deferral on this, do you?
I think I might, yes.
Maybe you could let you get caught up on some of the trees in the first phase. Maybe that would help you. We're trying to send you a message. All kinds of trees that are dead in the first phase. I'd appreciate maybe if you could look after it.
We are endeavoring to in all phases of Gardner Estate.
With respect to this application, are there any other questions by members of council? Having seen none, and then at this point, the public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is now concluded. The pleasure of council. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Any further discussion? Having seen none, I'm sorry, Councillor Wing?
Just a question. Our staff report indicates that additional medium-density housing and an improved residential mix is required on the balance of the vacant land in the north section of the Garner neighborhood to address city, regional, and provincial housing mix and density targets. Yet we have a letter from a couple of residents in the area saying it feels like we're being smothered already with townhouses and apartments at our end of town. We have a real discrepancy here between what residents there.
And perhaps the residents may not be aware of the policy plan, but Mr. Hurlovich, can you address that? Have you had any contact with those individuals?
We did receive the letter that Councillor Wing is referring to. That's the first contact that we've had with this particular resident. We recall that was a petition earlier when the proposal for a 40-unit apartment building was proposed by Bethlehem Place. But there is a requirement by the province that we accommodate all of our new growth within our urban boundaries, that we meet certain density targets within greenfield development, which this would be. And so we have to provide a mix of housing units to achieve a 60-40 split between single and semi-detached houses and multiple families. Multiple families would be apartments or townhomes. So we will be seeking to secure that in order to have an efficient use of land use within the corporation.
Yeah, I guess, Your Worship, maybe what's needed is some sort of public education so that people realize that it's not just their neighborhood, but all neighborhoods, not just in terms of greenfield development, but in terms of infill and intensification
Sure.
as well. Maybe if the public understood better, they
Sure.
would be more accepting.
I agree, Councillor, and I think that if they understood that, they probably would see where we're coming from as a council, so that's fine. I appreciate your comment. We have a motion on the floor, members of council. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Members of council, I have a few comments this evening I'd like to make, and I'd like to begin this evening by offering condolences to the family of Vincent Armstrong, retired platoon chief for the Niagara Falls Fire Department, who recently passed away. We offer the family our sympathy and as they deal with their loss of a dear friend and member of their family. A reminder to members of council and members of the public that Dr. Jack Kitts and his review team will be holding an open public meeting in our city on Friday, October 3rd at 8 p.m. This meeting will be held at Kingston College on Epworth Circle in Niagara Falls, and I encourage residents to attend to express their views on the Niagara Health System's Hospital Improvement Plan. Copies of the plan are readily available online at www.niagarahealth.on.ca or at our public library branches. It is very important that members of the public attend to present their views from the perspective of those living in our city to the review team. We must support this dialogue and work together to achieve the best possible health care for the residents of Niagara Falls. As well, I was pleased to have been invited by MPP Greg Sabar, the chair of Ontario's Tourism Competitiveness Study, to join him along with many tourism stakeholders this morning and some members of our council as well, to share ideas and information about Ontario's tourism directives. I stress the importance of our provincial government's continued support of its investment in Niagara. Strengthening tourism in Niagara Falls means strengthening tourism in Ontario. I emphasize the significance of our private sector's investment, and each time we saw an infrastructure commitment here by our government as well. I asked the government for their support of the upcoming projects like the large-scale theatre at the Fallsview Casino Resort, the 1812 Legacy Project at the Lundy's Lane Historical Museum, and connecting Niagara to Toronto via GO Transit. In addition, I was pleased to support the presentation made by Niagara Falls Tourism and the sentiments of the stakeholders of our community. I'd also like to advise residents of some recent notable events. The third annual Canada-U.S. Summit took place with regard to brownfields in Buffalo recently on September 11th and 12th, and I was pleased to participate with other city officials and representatives from our cross-border community. We've worked hard to develop the potential for existing brownfield sites, and I was pleased to share our progress as well as to gain insight into the success that has been achieved by our partners in other communities. As well, this year marked another successful Terry Fox run in our community, and once again we attended Oaks Park on September 14th to support the many runners, volunteers, and participants in Niagara Falls. Congratulations to Councillor Peter Angelo and all those others involved. On Thursday, we held an Alzheimer lunch break at Civic Square here at City Hall, and it was a pleasure to welcome so many people from downtown and around our community. Everybody who came out should be commended for their support as we raised $600 to be donated to the local Alzheimer's Society. I want to as well highlight two recent park openings in our city. And first, we celebrated the official opening of Keegan Park on Beaverton Boulevard on Saturday, September 13th. And this past Saturday, we joined the great number of guests at the artificial turf field on Kayla Road to officially welcome players to this new field. I would like to thank our staff at Parks and Rec and Culture for their organization of these very positive events. I was also happy to witness that the City Slickers soccer team competed on the new artificial turf field on Saturday, though I must confirm my faith in the talent of our youth soccer club, as the adults on the City Slickers team didn't even score one goal against the under-12 competitive girls team. So Councillor Peter Angelo and I think our clerk have some explaining to other members of council. Again, thank you. Thank you to Councillor Peter Angelo, again, city staff and members of the community for participating in this eventful day. And as you know, this week is the week of prayer. The 2008 Without Borders Our Turn to Pray event began yesterday with the launch of the third annual week of prayer. Members of our faith community gathered at the community church on McLeod Road to initiate a week of events where congregations and members of our community will pray for civic, government, and church leaders. I look forward to supporting their efforts and meeting with them at the various highlights planned throughout the week. All are welcome to join these gatherings, and on Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., prayers will take place right here at our council chambers. That concludes my remarks for this evening. Thank you. Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just bring up the hospital issue because you raised it. I've been pretty public that I think the time sucks. I realize Dr. Kitts picked it, but I just want to say Fort Erie has posters out all over their city. They're in every grocery store, every public venue. I'd like support a council to create through the clerk's department a poster and make sure it's in every grocery store, every public building that we have, libraries, community center, everywhere that we can possibly put it. Because I really think we're going to have a challenge of getting people out on a Friday night. I'd like to thank everybody who came out at the meeting that the mayor and I sat on the panel, but it was very disappointing to see 100 people. We have close to 10,000 signatures roughly on a petition, but we can only get 100 people out on a Monday night. So while Kim Crater is quoted in the paper as wanting to save maternity and pediatrics, which is fantastic, that was one of the mandates of our committee, I think we have to make it clear to the public that that's not what's happening yet. Because it was in the paper saying that's what we want to retain does not mean that that will be Dr. Kitts's mandate. So we want to make it clear that it's not a done deal. Right. And that every person out there, every extra signature, everything that we can put together to let Dr. Kitts know that it's a community effort. I saw the best argument for retaining our maternity and our pediatrics on Saturday. We can politicize all we want, but one simple letter to the editor by a mother who said, we don't need a center of excellence, I only needed to take my child to Emerge to be rehydrated. That's what we use emergency for. The croup, everybody's been there. Asthma attacks, earaches, those types of things that you have to take your kid in the middle of the night to Emerge and not to West St. Catharines. So please come out. We haven't saved these two services, and nor have we had our mandate to relocate it even close to being the accepted format that we're looking for the NHS to take a look at. So with the support of council, I'll come down to the clerk's office hopefully tomorrow and we can put a poster together. Even if I have to take it out and put it up myself, that's you, Dean, or Teresa, but I'll take it out and put it up myself, but I really believe we have to get more people out. And can we run an ad in the paper, and can we...
We do have public service announcements coming on the radio as well.
Great. Okay, and just for support of council, our ad hoc committee has ran, everybody saw the big 2-page ad in the paper. We need support from council to put another ad in for this Wednesday. So I'd like to move that. The budget isn't huge. It's whatever the review charges us. And I'd like support of council to pay for the ads that have been in the paper to date.
Councillor Thompson? You making that motion, Councillor Inoue?
Yes.
Okay, second by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion to the motion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Councillor, hopefully that will be put in the paper at the appropriate time in terms of the meeting at night. So it would be the Wednesday before.
The next ad, I'm sorry, Mr. The next ad entirely focuses on the meeting time. And I mean, there was a lot of misnomer when you go out on the weekend and think, oh, we saved it, so that was done. It's not done yet.
Not at all.
Well, we thank MPP Crater and yourself for your comments. We haven't achieved that yet, and we just want the residents to make sure they know that.
And yes, Councillor Thompson?
Yes, on the hospital issue, I also attended the meeting at the Lutheran Church, and I was very disappointed that there were 100 people out to that particular function. Here we have probably the most important decision that this council and this region is going to make probably in the next 50 years. And we had 100 people out. If we can't fill the auditorium at Epworth Circle, that really sends a bad message to what we're attempting to do here. You know, this thing goes back so long. I can recall 8-9 years ago when I was told by doctors on the doctor recruitment committee that the pediatrics, the obstetrics, all of these services were going to be going to St. Catharines. That's like 9 years ago. And so this is, in my opinion, a plan that they've had simmering under the surface for the last, I don't know how many years. Now, as we're just getting into the discussion on this, we have a suggested solution which really, in my opinion, pulled the rug out from under the committee because we haven't changed our mind. And the clear focus, in my opinion, for the next 50 years of health care has to be the relocation of the hospital out of that site on 4th Avenue in St. Catharines. Somebody made a Freudian slip at
one of our meetings when they called it the HIT plan. Was it? I think it is the HIT plan because we in Niagara Falls are the ones who are taking the major hit on this particular issue. And I really read the comments of Dr. Kitt, and I really get nervous about the final outcome of this situation and where we're going to go here. People just don't realize that this is a decision that is going to affect future generations for years. It probably isn't going to affect a lot of the seniors because it'll take 10 years to get it underway. And if we have to delay this particular project for a few years to make the right decision, I don't have any problem with that whatsoever, because this, in my opinion, is really crucial. When we started this term of office, we were asked, or before we started, we were asked by the review to respond to what our priorities were. And I don't have any crystal ball, but I pulled that out. And the two issues that I mentioned, one was health care, and the other one was transportation. Two of the major issues that have been simmering under the surface for so long. There is no solutions being suggested for transportation, and the location of this hospital has to be the center focus of all of our efforts to make sure that we make sure that this doesn't happen. I approached the member of provincial parliament's assistant when we first got into this discussion, and I started talking about the location. And the immediate reaction was, forget about it, that's not even on the table. Well, I tell you, when I hear that, we just got to fight all the harder to make sure that this issue doesn't go away. And I think we've sent a message to a lot of people that, well, we're going to have maternity in Niagara Falls. Nobody has even discussed that. There's no guarantee that's going to come from anywhere. There's no guarantee that Welland and Port Colborne and some of the other hospitals, that's going to make any difference to them whatsoever. So all I want to do is to say, let's keep on track. The full objective is the relocation of the site, and then after we can talk about what can happen. This better be the most successful event that we've had in the city of Niagara Falls, or we're going to be the losers, not just for the short term, but for the next 50 years. We got a serious problem.
Councillor Iannone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just on that note, I had the clerk, and thank you, Dean, get me the West St. Catharines transportation study, and it was to the region of Niagara and the city of St. Catharines. And as you go through the cost matrix and the summary at the end, basically it's estimated that about $48.5 million is required to complete all the improvements recommended under the short, medium, and long-term time frames. That included in the matrix with the new hospital located at that site. Councillor Wing sat on that committee before Councillor Maves was put on it, and she explained to me that does not include intermunicipal transportation costs. So we're looking at $48.5 million roughly, and then add intermunicipal transportation costs, you're probably up to $55–60 million that's going to be shared through residents throughout the region. So if spurring people in their pocketbook is enough to make them move, then this should do it, because we're going to be hit. We're going to be hit hard. I have no problem supporting a cancer center. I quite frankly think they're using the potential loss of a cancer center as an emergency crutch. And I mean, I go to Mount Sinai in Toronto. I'll be glad to go to St. Catharines. It'll cut my drive a lot shorter. But that can't be the crutch that has us help fund $1 billion hospital in a wrong location. And just so that there's clarification, the committee that's doing this work is not just a committee I formed, it's the council endorsed committee. And I'm not quite sure, maybe you can inform us, what our process will be to talk to Dr. Kitts that night. Are we lining up like everybody else at a mic and giving our presentation?
I appreciate that. I was going to elaborate. Thank you, Councillor, for bringing that to our attention. First of all, I want to say that the Transportation Steering Committee was never established to serve as the transportation vehicle for the hospital restructuring, because that was never part of the mandate. So that has become a request, but I'm not sure whether that's ever going to happen, to be honest with you. So the NHS still has those challenges before them. Secondly, I wanted to elaborate as well the venue at Kingston College. Just to point this out, I hope it will be an overwhelming success and it will have a good turnout. It's 1,000 seats. It's the most comfortable location we could find. And I note that the next night on Saturday it's sold out to Niagara concerts, and the majority of those people are seniors who attend Niagara concerts, and I go to each of those events, and I can tell you that I'd be very, very shocked and surprised that if we couldn't have them attend on the Friday evening as well. So, as I said, it accommodates 1,000 people. Also, the matters of the presentation, I've asked for you to have the opportunity to speak first after they're going to have us make some initial comments, and then questions will be fielded from the floor. They have asked for moderators, and they're just working on these final details. So that was one of the principles of the request we made. Nobody is meeting in private that I know of at this point, so at this point it's all going to be public information, so I hope that your presentation will be ready, and when I hear more, I'll certainly be glad to provide that to you. So the time, I can just confirm this, even though the doctor is meeting with some at 5:30 to 7:30. I wasn't excited about that. They gave us some opportunities. They'll be meeting the same night with St. Catharines, Niagara, and Lake Thorold, Lincoln, at one meeting, and that'll be held between 5:30 and 7:30. Then he'll proceed to come to Niagara Falls from 8 to 10, and I figured that it'd be better having him later in the evening rather than over the supper period, because we'd be having people saying they're not being able to get home. So that was the other challenge, and it was finally confirmed by the LIN as to the doctor's availability. So we'll deal with that the best we can. Councillor Inoue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, it kind of appears in the paper in some kind of spitting contest as to who does what. And, my point on Dr. Kitts is it's kind of like when you were in school when you were young. Once you hear the same thing over and over, it just sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher after a while, and the points are all the same. I would have liked to see us have an independent evening with Dr. Kitts rather than have him do 2 hours of listening to what will be the same in St. Catharines to then coming to us and hearing the same. This is why we need to do this. This is why we need to do that. I think it's kind of like at a council meeting and we go past 11. You've had enough, but you just have to be there. And to me, I echo you and Councillor Thompson. This is so important. So I don't want it to appear that we're at odds. I want us to go in there focused and concise. And I understand that the meetings with Dr. Kitts, Mayor Martin was able to bring Councillor Nunziato with him, which lucky him, because I would have loved to have been at that meeting. And I'd have loved to see how that presentation went. We weren't asked to go. And Dr. Kitts had said he was meeting with mayors and members of councils, and I was a little disheartened to hear that Councillor Nunziato went. And
I've asked that the Dr. Kitts grant the committee, which is a committee of council, the opportunity to make that presentation. And I would really want to reinforce and reiterate the point about our residents having to express their concerns. I know that there's often duplication when you hear people coming forward, but I hope that they would come forward with the idea of being very positive, and I hope that the numbers and show of strength by the opposition to this plan will be obvious by those who attend, and I hope that the doctor sees that. And hopefully he will listen to what we have to say. So again, that's the best we can do at this point. So we look forward to seeing everybody. We'll be promoting this. There'll be some public service announcements on the radio as well, and we hope that all the council will be present to witness what's happening as well.
Still a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor still, Councillor Inone's motion. So we'll deal with that. Any questions further to the motion? All those in favor? The motion's carried. Thank you. Move on to the next item on the agenda, communications and comments of the city clerk. First item is the Canadian Cancer Society requesting that the month of October be declared as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Niagara Falls. Motion by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Maves. Any comments or discussion? Having said none, I see none. All those in favor? Thank you. Also, number 2, the Fire Service requested the week of October 5th to 11th, 2008 be proclaimed as Fire Prevention Week, and that October 11th, 2008 be designated as Fire Service Recognition Day. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Once again, any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. The third item, Boost Child Awareness Prevention and Intervention, requested the month of October be proclaimed as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month in the city of Niagara Falls. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, second again by Councillor Diodati. Once again, you've heard the motion. Any comments? Having seen none, any comments? No? Okay. All those in favor? Thank you. The motion's carried. Number 4, the Lundy's Lane Battlefield Legacy Project. Correspondence from Gord West, Chairperson of Niagara Falls Board of Museums. Recommendation referred to staff. Yes, Councillor Carrier. Moved by Councillor Carrier, second by Councillor Pietrangelo. Again, any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. We have the Town of Fort Erie resolutions related to the Niagara Health System Hospital Plan. The recommendations for the Information Council, moved by Councillor Inoue, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Once again, you've heard the question. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any additional items, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Your Worship. There's actually 3 items I draw your attention to. in your handouts this evening. One's a request from Celebrate Old Downtown. As the council's probably aware, they're starting these Queen Street Art Saturdays. It started this past weekend, but they need a resolution of the council to be considered a community festival. That, I think, gives them a break on their liquor license.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, I'd like to move that motion and also include in that congratulations for the first event. It was not a great expense. The streets weren't closed. There was no cost to the municipality. And if you go down Queen Street on Saturday, there were not very many parking spots, a lot of people, and a lot of activity and art on the streets and other things happening. Also, I want to just mention the new coffee shop that's downtown, Balzac's. I tell you, what a first-class job, and that's the type of development. 2 or 3 of those type facilities downtown are really going to make the difference in the draw to the downtown Queen Street and the whole redevelopment. But congratulations to the owner of Balzac's. First class. The coffee is great, and also are the baked goods.
Okay, second to that motion. Councillor Diodati. Again, you've heard the comments, or you read the motion. Any questions or comments? Having seen none. Oh, yes, Councillor.
Yes, Your Worship. I just wanted to echo the comments of Councillor Thompson. I think what's happening downtown is spectacular. It's exactly what it's been part of the vision of the downtown group. I think we need to rally behind and encourage them. And if you have a chance, if you haven't lately, you got to go downtown, grab your coffee or your tea, and at the new coffee shop, and walk up and down that strip and pop into those gorgeous art galleries. It's absolutely exciting to see what's happening down there. You wouldn't recognize it if you haven't been there lately. We really encourage you. Take a trip down there. It's really exciting.
Thank you. So true. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Additional item from Canadian Niagara Hotels regarding a property matter. We're asking that it be referred to staff.
Okay. Councillor Ioannoni made his motion to refer to staff, seconded by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
And the last item, there's an additional report and actually related bylaw, and it's to approve the Sidewalk Cafe license agreement with Country Chalet Restaurant at 6526 Main Street. So recommendation is for approval.
Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Fisher. Any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I'm going to call on the ratification of Community Services Committee actions. I'm going to call on the Chair, Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you. The following items are to be ratified from tonight's meeting of the Community Services Committee. The minutes of September 8th, 2008 meeting be approved. Under report CAO 2008-04 that the recommended changes to the operation of the water wastewater section as set out in the service delivery report be approved, that staff be authorized to move forward with implementation. MW 2008-57 City of Niagara Falls Rail Line Ad Hoc Committee terms of reference, that the terms of reference be amended to allow up to 3 citizens. That doesn't make sense. Up to 3 citizens and accepted. That Mr. Red Ipisam be appointed as one of the citizen representatives, and that Councillor Thompson be appointed as the council representative. MW 2008-46 loose leaf collection. Council received this report for information, and that council directs staff to investigate the delivery of this program. Revisions to contract 2008-205-08 new sidewalk program, that staff be directed to proceed with the proposed modifications as stated in the report. That the unit prices submitted by Saco Construction Limited be accepted and ratified at the council meeting later this evening, and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to execute the necessary agreement. TS 2008-48 feasibility of reopening Main Street environmental assessment for the information of committee and the inclusion of the 2009 budget. Under new business, that staff report back on the possible priority projects for upcoming federal provincial funding programs, and that staff report on the replacement of trees in the Garner subdivision, and I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Ioannoni, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Any comments or questions? Again, having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to call for the ratification of the Human Resources Committee actions. I'll call on the City Clerk for that.
Your Worship, at a meeting held prior to Council, the Human Resources Committee met and makes the following recommendation to Council for ratification, that the draft request for proposal for the Chief Administrative Officer vacancy be approved, subject to the following amendments: that Section 3, Sub 8 be corrected to read February 27th, 2009, and that's in reference to the desired date for filling the position, and that under Section 3, Sub 9, that the words "within the 6-month probationary period" be added, and that's in reference to the time period for the quality guarantee and candidate replacement, and that under Section 5, that it be indicated that the Director of Human Resources will screen the firms and bring back recommendation for 3 search firms to be interviewed, and that recommendation will take place at the next HR committee meeting that will be held on October 6th.
Okay, moved by Councillor Carrio, second by Councillor Maves. Any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Move on to the consent agenda. Members of Council. Councillor Ioannoni.
I'd like to pull out 2008-38 budget schedule.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Budget schedule.
Budget schedule, you'd like to pull that out separately? Okay, any others? Okay, you want to move it balance by Councillor Carrio, second by Councillor Pietrangelo. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the budget schedule, I have a question about the provincial dollars that we were just allocated from the province. If I'm not mistaken, it was $4.5 million?
$3.9 million.
3.9. Okay, through you to Mr. Burden, last year when we did our increase for the capital budget, how much were we looking to bring in? And I'm sorry, I should have pulled my capital budget. But how much were we looking to increase the monies, the revenue that we brought in?
Mr. Burden?
The prior year. Because I'm looking at this thinking, I've never really been opposed to voting for an increase, but are we factoring in this 3.9% so that maybe we're not looking at an increase in that capital budget this time?
You mean 3.9 million?
3.9 million. Because we had a list that were top priority, secondary priorities, third priorities, and for those that we didn't go with at that time of date, I thought they would be our priorities at the next, looking into our budget. But why are we doing that if we have almost $4 million coming in? I'd like to see something come back with us to say these monies will cover that without an increase in that capital budget.
I think that's a good point, Councillor. We haven't gotten that far yet, but maybe you might want to
we haven't had any
some
update
direction.
on what that money's doing, but I'm just saying, we're going to start a budget discussion. I remember Councillor Carrio saying all the time, you know what, we're doing this backwards. This is what we will give you. Bring it back to us with this so that we're not making cut after cut after cut. And then I watched the fact that we got almost $4 million, and I think, you know what, can't that supersede a lot of, you need monies for this, more monies for that, more monies for that, because would that not cover the secondary projects that we didn't include in the last budget? Because I'd like to see that when that comes back to us, because we may have really the first time the possibility with those provincial monies to have a 0% increase, because those would cover the things that we didn't get to last year. Because, I mean, how often do you get handed that kind of money?
Well, I appreciate your point. I think Council can give that direction to staff. I'm not sure if staff has prepared anything, and I'm going to ask our CAO if we've looked at where that money might go, or Mr. Burden? Mr. McDonald?
We have not looked at that yet, and I think the suggestion made is one alternative. The other alternative may be we use it to decrease our debt. I mean, there's lots of alternatives that we can use it for, and clearly it's our plan to come back and address that directly with Council, and Council will have to give us some clarity following that. So.
Do you want to make a motion on that with respect to the...
I'll make a motion on that and be thankful that that will be Council's decision, because while we're always looking to increase money for infrastructure projects and we don't vote against it, we know how much we have to put into those projects. I mean, when I'm thrilled that gas is $1.10 a liter, and you understand how tight it is for people out there now, the front cover of Maclean's is, are we going into a recession, and how much are your grocery costs now? We're not going to get a windfall like this all the time, and maybe once, looking at these kind of monies, we can go to 0%, but I'd like to see staff bring that in.
Okay, I guess we have some issues coming under... the clerk is just reminding me that staff report back already on the possible priority project for the upcoming federal provincial funding programs, and also staff report on the replacement of trees in Gardner subdivision. However, I wonder if we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about the 3.9 is different than the Build Canada, which refers to the provincial federal, and that's $392 million by each federal and provincial body, which is a competition. I understand your point, and if you want to make that motion, then.
Well, I'd like to make that motion because I kind of looked at it as we're $3.9 million ahead of where we were last year going into this budget discussion.
Well, perhaps you can ask staff for some recommendations as to where it could go.
And when they come back to us on the October 27th, the first budget workshop, I'd like to see that money is included in there so that we know. We may be able to offset a whole lot of that discussion knowing we have that there.
Okay. So you're making that motion?
I am.
Okay. Mr.
Your Worship, I think we understand clearly the direction is to ensure that this is brought forward and council gets to decide where it's allocated, but it's really not an issue for the first workshop. We're dealing with PSAB as indicated on the workshop, but that will probably come back possibly in October 6th. But clearly it'll be before the budget is put together and before the budget is
So if we can
decided.
just eliminate that date.
I'll eliminate the date. October 6th is even better, so that's great.
We're not, just to clarify, we're not guaranteeing back. I'm saying it's possible, but the reality is it'll be back before we present the full budget, because that kind of direction to staff will be very helpful in putting together the capital budget.
So if our direction to staff is October 6th, we'll have it October 6th?
We'll give due consideration to that direction. I mean, it depends on the agenda and what's going on, but I don't see why we couldn't have some reference to that and the other motion that was already made.
Now, we need a seconder to your motion.
Will you be back?
Yeah. Seconder to Councillor Ioannoni's motion? Did staff bring back a report on what we might do with that $3.9 million? Second by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any further discussion? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. So then the budget schedule for 2009. Do I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Ioannoni, seconded by Councillor Maves. Again, any comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Move on to resolutions. We have a resolution that the Niagara, be it resolved that the Niagara Convention and Civic Center will be operated as a municipal capital facility as defined in the Municipal Act 2001. And further be it resolved that the staff of the Corporation of City of Niagara Falls shall take what other steps required to ensure that the Niagara Convention Center, Convention and Civic Center has the benefit of a waiver of any and all taxes and fees that are within the control of the Corporation of City of Niagara Falls. Have a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Carrio, seconded by Councillor Wing. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Second resolution, therefore be it resolved that the Niagara Falls City Council supports a bid for our community to host the 2011 Association of Municipalities of Ontario Conference, and further be it resolved the city staff work with the Niagara Falls Tourism, the Niagara Convention and Civic Center, and other applicable stakeholders in bringing the AMO Conference to our community and fulfilling the host community's obligations. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Fisher. I'd like to include in there the region as well because they have expressed an interest in working with the city. Okay, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any additional bylaws?
Yes, Your Worship. There's actually two additional bylaws in your package. One which was in reference to the Sidewalk Cafe license agreement that we had mentioned regarding Country Chalet Restaurant. And the second additional bylaw is related to the bus replacement program, authorizing yourself and myself to sign the applicable agreement.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to introduce the bylaws? The bylaws be given a first reading. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Again, you've seen the second motion. Is there any questions from the council? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
So that'll mean we have bylaws 2008-161 to 2008-167 read a first time.
Okay, thank you. And again, can I have a motion to give the bylaws a second and third reading? Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, again seconded by Councillor Diodati. Council has heard the motion. Any further questions or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried.
Bylaws 2008-161 to 2008-167 read a second and third time and passed.
Thank you. And new business? Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our council packages, we got this Health Achieve Inspiring Ideas and Innovation. I'm looking for the support of council for myself and one other member of council. I asked Councillor Diodati if he was interested. The different sections in this highlight emergency department wait times and the need for mental health units in your community, celebrating Canadian mental health and its importance in communities, Provincial Council for Children's Health and the changing face of maternal, newborn, and pediatrics, provincial lead maternal, child, and youth strategies, maternity service, newborn services, roles in the community. But I was more thrilled to, when you go to page 22, see that Dr. Schrag is speaking on behalf of the NHS, and he's speaking on health system accountability as a constant concern, as hospitals are expected to be accountable to the public and the government. I think that's fascinating. And it goes on to highlight that different branches of the NHS will be making presentations in regards to services, and there's one particular one on reorganization of hospital services. I think,
This is a seminar you're asking about?
Yeah.
Where is it and when is
It's
it?
in Toronto.
Okay, when?
And I'd like to attend. I think that will be fascinated to learn that. But, you know, you talked about us not, that transportation committee not moving into looking at the hospital system. I don't think this council ever envisioned itself moving into a provincial realm of healthcare either, but we've kind of been thrust into that section with the NHS, and I'd really like to be able to attend this conference.
So your
for
motion?
2 members of council, myself and whoever else is available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Ioannoni, seconded by Councillor Wing. Any further discussion? Haven't seen none. All those in favour? Motion's carried. Any other new business? Councillor Pietrangelo.
Thanks, Your Worship. In your opening remarks, you mentioned that on September 15th we had the Terry Fox Run once again in the city. And I'm sure that council is aware of the route that they take. They come out of Oaks Park and then they head west and they go up Portage Road to Throwstone Road. They go east down Throwstone Road and then the route comes south on Stanley Avenue. Just before the old abandoned tracks after Palmer Park, they send you from the road back onto the sidewalk. And there's a sidewalk that continues down to a certain point in front of the cemetery, and then there's no sidewalk anymore. And I guess I never really noticed it before because I would always run. But this year, I had my son on rollerblades, and I mean, there's people on rollerblades, there's people on bikes, there's babies or young kids in strollers. This year, there was a woman pushing her child in a wheelchair, and there was also an older lady that had one of the motorized scooters. And what happens is they get sent on the grassed area of the municipal property. So I'm wondering, Your Worship, whether or not we can simply extend the sidewalk south to Morrison Street so that there's a peer connection there, because I can't really see the Terry Fox Run going way into
On the west side of the Stanley?
on the west side of Stanley.
Sure.
Exactly.
Perhaps Mr. Holman, if he's still here? Could
We can,
we address that?
well, just the fact that we can certainly get a price to do that and bring it back, or we can change the route of the Terry Fox event into the cemetery and make a right. Anyway, we'll get a price on that particular, I know the area, it's a lovely green grassed area along the cemetery. So we will get a price and bring it back for council's consideration.
Yeah, Your Worship, I'd like to have it actually included in the 2009 new sidewalk budget.
Okay, want to make that motion, please?
I will, and I noticed that we had two reports, two separate reports on new sidewalk construction tonight, and they both totaled $130,000, and it said that we had $220,000 in our new sidewalk budget. So we do still have some monies left available in there.
Okay.
So, and hopefully it can be done before the 2009 Terry Fox.
Motion by Councillor Pietrangelo, second by Councillor Maves. Any further discussion? Having seen none, all those in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. Any other new business? Yes, Councillor Diodati.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Many of this council probably aren't aware of this. It was a big deal during the summer. But with the GNBA, the junior rookie ball clubs, there was a championship team that won. And Councillor Pietrangelo's son was on that team, along with my brother. And they had a celebration afterward at one of the parents' houses. And Councillor Pietrangelo was by far the winner. They had a parental diving competition into the pool, and apparently Councillor Pietrangelo did the best belly flop ever. And they had asked me if I would present this GNBA mug on camera here to Councillor Pietrangelo. They said they'd never seen a guy go up a 6-foot ladder and do a belly flop into a pool until that night. And hands down, he beat all the other floppers. So if I could publicly congratulate Councillor Pietrangelo.
So, Councillor Diodati, you're saying it wasn't planned?
I'm not sure. I wasn't there, Your Worship. All they said was it was legendary, and it was one of those things you just had to see.
Thank you.
YouTube?
Any other new business this evening? Councillor Mays? Okay, second by Councillor Ioannoni. All those in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.